All right, boys and girls, we are live here. It is Rob from Rob's School of Music, and we have the legendary Mr. Adam Shoenfeld. Thank you so much for your time, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you. That's a big word, legendary.
Well, I tell you, you deserve every one of those syllables because looking at your resume, man, you have been around. And
Thanks, man. I'm just lucky. The other L word. You
well,
know. Thank you for having me, man.
definitely, definitely. I'm just making sure that we are live on Facebook as well. We are good. Okay. So we are a music school. We are located in New York, but we do virtual lessons worldwide. And my first question I ask everyone, I think you can answer in two different ways, actually, which is kind of exciting. So prior to the pandemic, one of the big things within the school is we're always trying to prepare our students for, hey, it's great if we're all going to become legendary rock stars, the next Taylor Swift, Eddie Van Halen, but realistically, finding gigs and maintaining the life of a musician through all the bumps and the ups and downs is the long game.
Yeah.
A lot of our musicians are newer in their musical career, younger as musicians, not necessarily in age. And stage fright, anxiety, those are things that they deal with. And you played on some giant stages and toured with some big acts, as well as epic sessions. So that's a whole other thing of nerves. So you have any
Yeah.
tips on that?
Oh yeah. Well, if you can ignore them, do it. If you can't, you just gotta figure out how to get out of it. Stage fright for me went away. That I get more anxiety and stage fright in front of a smaller audience, because everyone's right there with you. Like if I'm at a party and someone's like, "Hey man, we play a song," and it's five people, I'm like, I don't play guitar very well. But if it's 20,000, maybe it's because I'm the side man, um, it get that kind of stuff you really get to like that. And the stage fright, it's more of a pump thing, when you get to that level. And, if I was a singer at that level, not just the side guy, I might be a little more nervous. I've been doing my bands with my wife and called Suncat and Digital Brains with my boys. It's a rock band, and finally got on stage as a frontman the last few years in the clubs. And man, I'll tell you what, the first show I did as a frontman, I was so nervous, and soundcheck was awful. It was just the worst soundcheck ever, and I just left soundcheck thinking, well, it's the way it's going to be. Turned out they didn't have the subwoofer on. So when we walked out for the first hit of the show, the subwoofer was on. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And all of a sudden, all the fear went away. Everybody came to the front of the stage. It was like 50 people, barely anybody, but it was killer, man. So live stage fright can go away. You can get used to it and not have it before. I think it's just a matter of you keep doing it. That's really the answer to your question, is keep doing it and doing it and doing it. Some people, I hear that fright doesn't go away. There are people that have made it that always have it, but I think once you get on that stage, it transitions away. Now in sessions, I've gone through moments with anxieties and moments without them, and that's just, you got to get out of your own way is pretty much what it is. And if you start getting hired for recording sessions, you have to keep in the back of your mind that you're there because the person that called you likes what you do.
Right.
And you always have to remind yourself of that. And hopefully they still like what you do when you leave, which is part of the anxiety. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just experience, doing it more and more, and, my advice to the young me would be all those songs I started writing at 14, play them in front of people, memorize them, play them in front of people. That's one thing I would have changed for me. It's just do the music in front of people and don't be scared. Get that, work it out.
Yeah.
So.
I love that, actually, because that's one of the big things that we try and do here with the school is we put everyone into groups with people. We have them performing, at local events, street fairs, whatever we can get them into, because same thing, like for me growing up, I was awkwardly, painfully, cripplingly, if that's a word, shy, and music gave me that confidence. And similar to you, the stage fright went away, and I kind of feed on that now. That's like, there's the rush.
Yeah, totally.
So throughout my life, I've done my fair share of cover work, and I have played some of your solos to me. And Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy has been a staple. She's country, stuff like that. So if someone were trying to actually, let's do it this way. How did you get into the session world?
I got a job at a studio when I first moved to Nashville, as I was 19, almost 20. And part of the job was, answering phones, but part of the gig was I could work in any of the 3 studios I wanted to at any time, as long as I had an engineer, on anything I wanted to, my own, as long as it wasn't booked and as long as I answered the phones. And the owner, my friend Bob Solomon, he had a publishing company and he used me and my friends as his house musicians. Cool. So, and at the same time, I'm hearing the greatest session musicians through the walls, seeing their cases getting rolled in. So that's what started the dream. I thought I was going to be in a band and be a rock star when I moved to Nashville. But I just got thrown into that stuff, and people took a chance on me. People I met at the studio that worked there, got my first shots at studio work through just working there and being the kid that plays guitar. I think they heard me through the wall working on my stuff.
Cool.
I think is what started it. If you go back to the very beginning, and then it just escalates, man. It's like, if you go into one session, you do well, they'll call you back. They'll tell a friend, the right place, right time thing is so true. And if you don't have the talent to back it up, you might not make it. But I think, man, if you're around the right people, it starts to happen. And that's how it started for me. And it just kind of steamrolled. And so
that's awesome. Did it start off, in Nashville? Were you a country guy? Cause you're a rock guy. It comes across, at least you shred.
Yeah. No, dude, I was a child of the 80s. I mean, I am so envious of all these amazing guitar players on social media, the shredders that are just killing it, guys and girls just, shred. Cause I was chasing that when I was a teenager. I was, bouncing tracks on my 4-track till I had about 24 tracks of 2-hand tapping and harmony and sweeping and so that, and I was in a metal band that, we wrote most of our own songs. We did half covers and half our own songs. So yeah, I started out there, and then some jazz, and then got into different kinds of rock and pop because of different bands I was in. So yeah, and the band I was with when we moved to Nashville was kind of like somewhere between Richard Marx and Billy Joel. Was a piano playing guy, singer, and he's just really awesome. Nathan Lee was his name, is his name still. Speaking of Nathan, Send Musicians to Prison. It's his nonprofit that he does.
Cool.
Little shout out to him. He actually goes to prisons, plays music, and tries to help rehabilitate some people's minds.
Wow.
So, but anyway, that was my band that my influences like Michael Landau and the Session Players started to come out in my playing. And then we moved to Nashville, and I got lucky enough to get that gig and start testing that stuff. So
cool. Yeah. I think like that is, as a guitarist who I toured, I had my original band, and then I had my son, and I kind of shifted to the cover world for a bit. And now we're writing original music again, but having to play so many genres of music opened me up as a player. And then now as a teacher, like if someone comes in and they want to play Metallica, I'm like, that's cool, but we're also going to learn some 7th chords.
Mm-hmm.
They give you some homework to listen to a Steely Dan record, because I want you to be well-rounded. So I think being a session guy, you got to wear all these different hats, and that's so fascinating.
I think learning other instruments is important too. I took piano lessons. I took some clarinet lessons. I played trumpet. And I'm not great at any of them, but drums, I've taken drum lessons. I've played drums on some of my own stuff, and thank you, Beat Detective. But honestly, I was on a string there of taking drum lessons, and I started to notice I was locked in again a little more on my playing. as I've gotten older, I've noticed the connection between the right and left hand. If I don't exercise it, it's just, I'm not 16 anymore. It's, I haven't done shredder licks in forever. I've never had to, in the session world. That's the one thing kind of bums me out, that I'm trying to get that stuff back, man. I see these people on Instagram and TikTok. I'm like, come on, man. I want to get that going again. But the session stuff's about just parts for the songs, So I'm going on a tangent. Sorry, bro.
No tangent, please, dude. It is. I am here to listen to you. So tell me all your secrets.
Sorry about that. I'm sorry.
I was just talking to the piano teacher here at the school earlier today about Instagram and TikTok and how it's provided a platform for all of these players that, maybe, within the last 20 years, they wouldn't have had that. I mean, I was not this past January, obviously, but 2020 out at the NAMM show, the lines for the Instagram guitarists were equally as long as the Steve Vai line, to try and meet people. So it's, I try and think to myself, if I were just starting and I'm seeing these people just melting faces on social media, would I have been incredibly inspired, or would I have been like, I could never do that?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because for us, we didn't know who the competition was. It was the guys in our town, and that was it.
Exactly, dude. That's what it was. It's blessing.
Yeah. I don't know. I probably would have been like, sorry. I'm gonna go. I don't know what I'd do. I don't know what I'd do if I didn't play guitar, man. I'd be a sorry sack sitting around. So.
Well, I mean, your guitar playing, dude, I got written out here, the accolades and the records, and Luke Bryan, Keith Urban, Blake Shelton. I mean, it's just Florida Georgia Line, Jake Owen. It just goes on and on and on. Is that one person recommends you and then another person? It's like, you're a cool guy, you can hang. So it is just word of mouth?
Yeah, it's pretty much that, man. So like the first time I really dove into sessions that were like union scale, the stuff that, was that group of musicians that were doing those records. That was around the time I met John Rich and Big Kenny, Big and Rich. And John had a publishing deal, and Kenny may have had one as well. And they would use me on their sessions. So that's the thing. Like I was saying before, you go into one and you do a good job. I had done some for these other guys, so they were using me more, the first ones I had mentioned, and then John starts using me. So you start building it. It's like a tree, every branch, there's another person that there was a musician on that John Rich session that knows I'm good. So another project comes up, it's really that, and Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy, that was the first one. And then Hicktown, those really caught people's ears sonically for country. That's the thing. It goes, people hear the record, people hear from other people, you're good. It's, again, right place, right time,
I think it's super inspiring. One of my first interviews when I started doing this for the pandemic, I had Tim Pierce, and he's been on a bazillion records as well. And similar, similar circumstance where it's just, one thing leads to the next. So I think it just shows to bring your A game and not be an asshole.
I mean, that's one important thing is vibe, pretty much the assholes get rooted out.
Good.
For the most part. There's a couple. You know who you are.
We will not name names.
Nah, I can't really think of anyone except for one guy.
Just blink your eyes 3 times. I know who you mean. What was it for you in the beginning? Was there like a particular record or a show that you saw and you're like, ooh, that's what I want to do?
Well, several records, and honestly, partly because of the music and partly because of the audience. It was live records. It was Frampton Comes Alive. And I figured out years later that I think what drew me to it first was the sound of the audience. That's the part that kind of gave me the chills. And then I was like, oh, there's music with this stuff too. It's really awesome. And my dad brought home Clapton Just One Night live record for me when I was young and said, you've got to listen to Tulsa Time. It's the greatest rock and roll song of all time. So those 2 live records really really gave me the bug. I remember air guitaring and bouncing up and down on my bed. We were getting an addition on the house, so my bed was in the living room for like a month or two, and I remember being down there just bouncing around, and so. But there's also stuff like my brother had Pyromania when it first came out, so there's that too, and my parents had a good record collection as well. So
that's awesome. I think it's so fascinating what was the trigger for different people. And sometimes it's something that's like so far left field, but it was their first experience with music, and it changes the trajectory of their life.
Yeah. I'll tell you when I knew that I was supposed to be playing, and it happened to me twice. The first band I was in was a metal band, and we played the cafeteria stage at our local high school and junior high school. And I did a guitar solo in the middle of the set that was literally a guitar solo, nobody else. The rest of the band left the stage, and I prepared this thing. And when the guys got back on stage, they're like, yeah, that was awesome, blah, blah, blah. And after the show, they're like, did you hear the crowd go up? And I said, no, I didn't. Like, I totally went away for first time ever. Like, I was so in it that I didn't even hear the response. And then it happened again at a battle of the bands we did like a year or two later. Same thing, just went away, and it was kind of it.
Cool.
Just come in.
It is intoxicating. Again, as I said before, like getting our students out playing, like I want them to get out there and feel that feeling. And then like as a fellow musician and then as a teacher, getting to watch someone's eyes, just that, for the first time, it's like you're hooked.
Yeah.
You're a lifer.
Well, they could do it. They need to know that they can do it.
Right.
That's the thing. Hopefully they have people around them. Most likely if their parents have them in music lessons, they're the kind of people that are going to support them and tell them they can do it, Yeah. And that's what they need. My parents, God, I thought I could do anything. I was wrong. But I can play guitar a little bit.
That's funny. I came from a very supportive household as well. My father's a drummer, and growing up, my first couple of bands were horrible in hindsight.
Yeah.
I had the parents, that was great. That was your best show ever. You sang really good. I'm not a good singer. It was, your voice should have been louder. I'm like, what? I don't know.
That's funny. Yeah.
Let's go into some gear stuff. I'm trying to put that up, but I can't withhold it much longer. So I guess the first question is, what is your thought on amp modeling technology?
Still wrapping my head around it.
Okay.
I've had a great experience and some not so great. So I guess I can speak from both sides of it. So with McGraw, we were using regular amps with the extension cabinets in road cases, which if you've ever done before, kind of causes a mid-range honk, just a little bit of frequency that's not polite in the in-ears. And we have 3 guitar players. So we, for some reason, decided to go Kemper. I think they might blame me. But I tried one, and I just got the profile of my amp, just a clean profile, using my pedal board like the Kemper was set, like my amp was. And just me, in my opinion, going down to the Kemper, opened the in-ear mix up. And then the other 2 guys did the same thing. And I remember Tim saying, wow, something's different about the mix. It's really open sounding. So you get rid of 3 cabinets that are in boxes to be quiet for the mixer, and it got rid of the bad part of that. So that was a good experience. Still haven't gotten into using all the, models and putting it fully in the Kemper, like it's pedal board in Kemper, as I said, and not using, all the effects and stuff yet, but that was the goal if we could have toured this past year. But my other experience with the Kemper hasn't been as good in the studio. I just did figure out a trick, not a trick, but the line out 1/4 inch is at a lower level than if you do XLR. So if you do the line out into a direct box, it sounds better because it's sending less level. It's not hitting it as hard. It takes away some of the brittleness. So I'm having good luck with it in my studio. I haven't had that luck. I haven't had the really only had 2 times in other studios, and I just didn't enjoy it. But I don't know if I had it dialed right, so I can't say that it's a negative thing on their part. But long, very long answer to I'm still working on them. What's the other one? The Axe Effects I tried quickly, real quickly, not long enough to really pass a judgment. I've heard the Iridium pedal Strymon makes through some friends. Heard that quickly, and it sounded good. Russ Paul, who is one of the most acclaimed session guitar players and steel players in town, he swears by it. He's doing all his overdubs through it.
Wow.
So if he says that, I'm kind of like that thing must kick ass, you know. So I think it's a good thing. I think it can be good for ease of operation. I've done it live without in-ears. And one experience wasn't great. One experience was good. So, it's a learning curve, I think, like anything.
Dude, I completely agree with literally everything you said, down to the ISO boxes tripping up the mix. So everything was, so in the school here, we have a bunch of lesson rooms. This is my office, which is now my virtual space. All my guitar pedals are in a case out in front, hundreds of pedals. I let the students borrow library books.
That's awesome.
I do, because it's like when I was a kid, I just want to get down and twist knobs and make sound.
Yeah, man.
In fact, a bunch of my students have pedals that they took before we had to shut down to go virtual, which I don't know I'll ever get those back, but that's okay. But I'm an amp guy. I'm a pedal guy, but at the same time, for convenience, I tried all the different modeling things. And this is like a conversation I try and have with every person I can talk to, all my musician friends, all the studios in town. I didn't like the Helix much. I tried it 7 times. Bought one, sold it, bought one, sold it. I have a Fractal here that I literally have 2 patches. One that I kind of tried to make sound like my Deluxe, and one that I wanted to make sound like this Mesa. So I really, it just does.
Butamus. I said Butamus. That's a nice looking file.
It should be illegal. But then I have the Kemper at home, and at the Kemper at home, I do exactly what you say. I use it like it's a head, and I run pedals into it.
Right.
And I find that works really, really well. But I think with all this stuff, what is it? The neural has the quad cortex just came out. Everyone's raving about that on YouTube. The technology is going so quickly. I think the learning curve is equally as every time something new comes out, it's the amount of effort. It's never going to be as easy as plugging in your guitar into a couple of pedals into your amp and then physically touching knobs until it sounds good. And
I agree. But also at the same time, like I got a cabinet sitting back here that on the last Jason Aldean sessions, I A-B'd it to my cabinet that I have in Cartage. Cartage is our gear in a warehouse that if somebody's got a big enough budget, we call them and they wheel our stuff in. It's beautiful. But when I don't have that, I carry my own stuff. So I have a 1x12 cab. So I A-B'd it because I just needed to make sure, because I've been on the road so much that I wasn't doing as many carry sessions. And I A-B'd it, and it sounded in the environment we do the Jason records. So I know that room. I know that sound chain. I know that engineer. And the only difference was there was a little less bass, a little less bottom end on this cabinet, but not enough for me to go, I'm not going to use this for sessions. So I've been bringing it to sessions, but man, it's been really different everywhere.
Wow.
And sometimes that's just as frustrating, as what you were saying with the profilers. So I'm going to swap it out. I got one cabinet here another one that for some reason isn't that, it never fluctuated that much. It's odd to me. Maybe it's just built better and there's more spots that sound good because of the way it's designed. I don't know, but yeah, so there's nuances with anything really.
Sure.
So usually go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, I think being able to start to notice those nuances. Yeah. I'll have kids I'm working with. I say kids, no matter what the age they are, people that are old enough to be my parents, they're still kids in my brain. And we'll be doing something and they're like, hold on. And I see them starting to fiddle with their tone knob and their volume knob. I'm like, you caught it. You caught it, because now you're hearing the little differences. So it's like a double-edged sword where the inconsistency is annoying, but that your ear can pick it out means that you're really developed,
Yeah. And a lot of times, and it's not the case with this cabinet, but back in the day, like with my studio cabinet, I know with that one that if it sounds weird, 9 times out of 10, I can go walk and look and see where they have the mic, and I can go whoo, whoosh, and move it like 1 inch, and it's like, there it is, you know. But so a lot of nuances.
When you're doing the Jason Aldean stuff, is it a different studio band than the live band?
Not really, a little bit. So the three is the root, the three kings, we call them. Tully and Kurt and Rich. Kurt Allison is the other guitar player on the records, and the main guy live, I believe. He does most of the lead stuff. Tully's bass player, Rich is drums. So I want to go back. Jack Sizemore is their other live guitar player, but he played on the first record. And then I think he quit the band. And at the same time, I started doing electrics. Like on the first record, I only played Hicktown. That was the only thing I played electric on. The rest was acoustic. And then it swapped to me and Kurt doing electric. So it's been that ever since. So it's always those three, and they play live as well. So the steel player is different, and I don't think they have a keyboard player live. I think they go full rock and roll. And acoustic player, I think it's just Jason playing acoustic, I believe. Or, well, I bet Jack probably hits it if they need it too. So, but yeah, it's amazing. It's funny because I play most of the leads on the records, but Kurt's by my side playing other stuff, but he'll take the leads live, and Jack will do his part. So it kind of swaps, but then I tour with McGraw, but I don't even play on his records. So a lot of people don't know that. They're like, well, wait, don't you play on the records? It's like, no, Big and Rich was the only thing I did that I actually went out and played live with.
Wow. So how does, I guess maybe it's the same answer to the question before. How do you do one, but not the other? Like, what makes the artist choose the session guys versus the live guys?
It's people get into their groove, just like the mix of musicians for the Jason record hasn't changed for all of these records. 12 records I think we've done. Wow. It's been the same personnel. It settled in on record 2, except for a couple of the acoustic guys I think swapped around for another record or 2, but it's 12 solid records of pretty much the same band, because that's what works for him. That's his sound. And McGraw, where his producer, it's the same producer he's had for years. I think he's strayed and used other musicians, but I think there's certain guys his producer loves to call that he always uses. So that would be the example. I've never been on a McGraw record, so had I been on one 10 years ago, I may still be doing them.
Got it.
So it's just a matter of the producer, the artist, who they end up using. Sometimes the live bands aren't good in the studio. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they are. I don't think there's a rule. Some people say you can't do both, and that's just BS. But but some people are better at one than the other.
Do they give you charts when you go in the studio? Is the music written? Are you improvising?
Yeah, basically. Well, it works a couple different ways, because if you start at a demo session, that's usually when a guy or a girl is coming in with a song, and they play it for you on acoustic, or they play a tape of it, just acoustic and vocal, and somebody makes a chart or has already made a chart, and you're looking at it. And then, boom, you go out there and you have 30 minutes per song, maybe 40, and you create their track, and they might have a melody idea. They may not. You may completely make it up yourself for a guitar part or something like that. Yeah. So then on the record side of it, when you're doing records, it's usually those demos you're hearing, because those demos get pitched to the producers and artists from the songwriters. So, and then you're doing a record and you're learning somebody else's parts, because a lot of times producers and artists like the song not only because of the song, but because of the sound of the demo. So a lot of us guitar players and all musicians end up playing a lot of everybody else's licks, which is an interesting thing. And there's a lot of different ways, I think, or a couple of different ways you could feel about that, so, but yeah, it's pretty interesting how it works out.
Do you know going like, all right, so a typical session, like you're going to the next Jason Aldean record, like what gear do you bring with you to that session?
Well, you know what? I bring my core stuff that's in cartage, which is my mainly my Bassman head, 64, I believe.
Nice.
And an old Showman cabinet that I've had for years. I got for $75, and a couple extra heads, Morgan, Marshall, a third power. But I use that Bassman, I'd say 85% of the time on the records, and that it's what I've been using forever. And I know, Knox knows to go out, get the Melody Maker out, or play the Rick, or get the Gretsch. He knows after all these records, we found what works for us, and that's still what I bring to other sessions. Although I did have a session over Christmas time, right before Christmas. I was really excited to do, and it was more of a rock thing. So I had my cartage come and bring all those amps and guitars and huge pedal board, and I still carried with me 2 other amps and about 15 other guitars and bags full of pedals because I was so excited. I was like, yeah, we're gonna get to create. And so sometimes you do both, but it's rare I get that excited. I'm getting old.
No, dude. I mean, it's always exciting. Do you crank the Bassman up? Like you jack it up, or
once in a while? But my main sound is that thing on about 2.5 to 3 with a Boxer Rock pedal. That's the main sound of the Aldean stuff. At least on the last 4 or 5 records, that's been my go-to pedal. So Hicktown was actually a TS9 and a Silverface Bassman through the same cabinet. The drip edge Bassman. Yeah, Strat and a TS9.
That's awesome.
So yeah, a lighter combination, I think, than you would think it is.
Yeah.
But
I'm just blown.
But cool John Rich riff. Yeah.
Do you what kind of pedals? You said a huge pedal board. What staples are on there?
Well, I'm going to show you 2. Hopefully my connection will go. I don't have my studio one with me, but here's one. If you can see, can you see that?
Yeah.
That's one board in my studio here. M9's kind of a go-to. Mm-hmm. Then I've got, hopefully there's enough light on this one. Can you see that one?
Yeah.
So they're all mixed up, and I've got like 3 other ones. So there's so many things I like. I love the Big Sky Reverb. That's become my new favorite toy from Strymon. And timeline delay is cool. The El Capistan, the Dunlop Echoplex MXR. Is it MXR? I don't know which they're calling it. The Echoplex is amazing. Dude, I'm like you, man. If it makes a weird noise, I want it.
I think, and especially now, there's so many of these boutique companies, and then with reverb, I'm like addicted to reverb. I literally play these games. Please tell me this is normal, because no one else wants to admit it out loud. I play these games in my mind where I get like super hooked on something, and I'm watching all the videos, and then I'm like, okay, well, if I can find one under whatever price that I justify in my mind is fair, then I have to buy it. So I like sneak off in the middle of the night, and I'm looking on my phone, and then I'll find one and buy it. And then like I get this monster heap of pedal stuff over my shoulder.
Yeah.
Is that normal?
Yeah. Well, there's my wall back there. I didn't show you. I don't know if you
okay,
can make it out, but that red area.
Yeah.
All pedals plus 5 pedal boards. So I'm with you. Okay. I'm not quite so planned about it as you are.
That's how I justify it. My brain calculates things in the most.
Yeah. How many pedals do you need? Just one more.
That's the answer. That's totally the answer. And
Space Station's one of my favorites. That old the Digitech Space Station. That's killer. I love stuff like that. But my friend David Levita, that's in the McGraw band, you should have him on here sometime. He's the man with the pedals and the sounds. He's God. First time I heard him, I was like, oh, I want to create again. I want to reinvent. It's just amazing.
It becomes this cool sonic palette, where you can just start to one, like, some dotted eighth note delay thing. Just, oh, that's cool. Let's loop that. Now let's add that. Let's add that. And then being able to figure out ways to do it live. I think this is even cooler.
Yeah.
Let's pivot now. No, I'm do one more gear question and
okay.
Pivot off gear. And then at the end, I'm going to do a rapid fire, this or that kind of goofy thing.
Okay. I hope I don't look like a jerk.
There is no wrong answers. There is no, except for one question has a wrong answer. And I'll let you know. Most people get it right. You're on a desert island and you get one guitar, one amp, and one pedal. What would it be?
Ah, boy. I'm going to say, at risk of offending some of my friends at the wonderful guitar companies that I love and help me out and are so kind, my Rickenbacker, it's a 330 64 with my Vox Cambridge.
Cool.
65 Vox Cambridge, and probably the box of rock. Cool. I'd be good. I'd be trying to remember every Tom Petty song I could.
I asked the same question to Zach Myers from Shinedown, and he grabs. He's like, "I'll get this," and then he pulls out a Les Paul, and he's like, "And it's real. There's a 59." And then he walks his camera over to a Dumble, and then a Klon.
Wow.
I said, I the show is over because it wouldn't,
Yeah, that's amazing. I played through a Dumble, but it wasn't the right situation. I need to play through one when I can sit right in front of it and look like the guy in the Maxell commercial with my hair getting blown back. And Maxell, if you don't know, that was a VHS or a cassette company. There are these things that music used to come on.
I'll put a YouTube link in the show notes for the kids. Yeah. All right. So another question I like to ask before we go more into gear nerdery is, a lot of people, when there's musicians and obviously, with such an epic career and just an amazing resume, they tend to think that, well, it's just music, but sometimes there's other things. So do you have something, collect something, or cooking, or books, or
martial arts?
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I say that, but I have missed this year because of obvious
safety.
I was slacking for a couple months before it, actually, to be honest. But I love martial arts, man. It's a therapy for me, and it's an amazing thing. So I really enjoy that.
I love to hear that, man, because me personally, martial arts was my thing before I found music. My
cool.
entire young life, I'm going to open up a karate school. That's what I'm going to do. And then stole me away. But I like it also because I think when I was a kid, if you were a musician, you were relegated, stereotyped into this stoner, outcast, freaky kind of thing. You couldn't be athletic.
Yeah.
And I think, health and wellness is incredibly important. So something like that. It's
It's a great thing, man. Mind and body.
Yeah. 100%.
For sure. New Visions Dojo, Nolensville, Tennessee.
We'll show those links in there too. We'll link it all up. Okay. I'm looking at my list here, my random question. I'm trying to connect them. Sometimes I go on tangents and then I can't connect the thoughts. So.
Yeah, that's what I get to. That's when I know it's time to stop. I go, where was I going?
When in the studio, I think, again, to the initial question, with nerves and anxiety, things going wrong. I tell the story to my students all the time when they're so afraid of something going wrong. It was a fly gig in Vermont, and they had a backline, so I had to bring this giant pedal board. And on the first song, I stepped on my wah pedal, and it came off the Velcro, and something unplugged. And for the remainder of the hour and a half set, I had to plug right into the amp. And everything I'd rehearsed and all the changes and all, it was like a corporate thing. So there's a lot of different styles of music I had to do. And it was just a volume knob for the rest.
Challenge, baby. Wow.
So, has something happened on the Tim McGraw stuff, or even in a session where something goes wrong? Yeah, how do you?
Oh yeah, it's always really frustrating. It is there. There's only one session I had to do exactly what you did, and it was crank the bassman if I wanted distortion because I can't figure out what's wrong with the pedal board. And we did it, and it was fine. It worked out. I think maybe they were adding effects for me and stuff like that,
Cool.
or at least afterwards. Um, Live on a stage with McGraw, it's a little easier because the band's so big that if something goes wrong with my gear, I can stop playing. I can keep playing and talking to my talkback and go, "You guys know my amp's out, right?" And they'll be like, "Yep." I'm like, "Cool," and I'll just play along. And maybe the people on my side, if it's a stereo mix, will notice there's something different. All of a sudden, there's something gone. But how many people in the audience, are really musicians that will pick that up? Maybe half.
Right. Yeah. You always know who they are because they're doing this. They're trying.
Yeah. Yeah. What's he's not really playing that. Yeah, but yeah, you just got to go with it, man. It's almost like when you fall down and break your face open on the cement, like adrenaline takes over and you're just like everything slows down and you're like, well, obviously you just do this and plug this into the Marshall and go and just it all takes over, man.
What's a day in the when you're on the road with Tim McGraw? Like what is sound check and what is your morning to the gig like?
Well, okay. What is my morning? We are spoiled, man. It's such a great gig. He takes such good care of us. Dream big, kids. It's not all like this. It's not all roses. But we'll pull into town in our bus and the band bus, and we'll get to a hotel usually, depending on what kind of gig it is. And we'll all get out of the bus, go to a hotel room that we have until the afternoon. Well, if it's a town, we'll walk around that town. We'll go get coffee. We all, branch off into sometimes little groups of the band. Sometimes we go solo. And then we usually converge at the venue and work out and do the Tim workouts, which I miss because without him making me do them, not doing them as much, if at all. And then we just kind of wait around. It's like you got that couple hours of maybe playing 2K in the back of the bus on the Xbox. I think half the buses still have 360s in them. So, and then, we get on stage and do it, man. We don't always have sound check. We usually have sound check towards the front of a tour. And if we're changing something, if we're adding or subtracting a song, or if something goes wrong the night before, somebody wants to be sure that it's not going to happen again, whether it be musically or technically. But it's great. I've seen some great places and met some amazing people with Tim. And, I've been backstage and Joe Walsh walks in and I'm just like, well, now I'm nervous. And he said something to me. I can't remember what it was, but it was so humble. And it started with, "You're nervous." Like I'm the one that, blah, blah, he was just so sweet, gracious. And the boss, Springsteen, personal hero of mine, was there. One night, got to talk to him for a little bit. He was super cool. And Tom and Rita Hanks and Patty, his wife, and God, it's just cool. It's a cool gig, man. And we get treated so good. And yeah, it's awesome.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. It's cool that the show is so dialed in that you don't need to sound check it. It's just
yeah, no, it's great.
Really professional.
Yeah, it's awesome. The crew that we have, sometimes it changes through the years. There's usually a root of about 5 or 6 guys that are always with us. But it quickly becomes a tight knit machine, very well oiled. All these crew guys, are from great companies and they've been doing it for years, and girls, and they are serious about it and they're awesome. You know, we're always lucky. And then you're really lucky if you're on one of the tours where they actually bring tour catering.
Ooh.
Yes. Like pot roast instead of warm lunch meat.
Nice. Eat like a king. Awesome, dude. Well, I'm going to ask one more question and then we'll do my rapid fire. My final question prior to the rapid fire fun. What would you, a quick piece of advice to the next generation, someone looking to get into the life of a musician as a career, a realistic career?
The only 100% sure way to not make it is to give up.
Oh, I love that. That's our soundbite. That's it.
That's it. You know, and that's the thing. You give up, you're not going to make it. So it takes some people longer than it takes others. So if you have the dream and the soul and the desire to chase it, you got to chase it. So
I feel you, man. That was the best answer I've heard to that question. So thank you for that.
Oh,
our whole philosophy here with the school is we want to give people the skills to play music forever.
Yeah.
And it's a long road, and ride that road and up and down and up and down and up and down.
And believe in yourself. You know, that's no matter what people say, you know, maybe you do suck. Maybe you do, but keep trying until you prove that to yourself. There's the other side of that answer.
I like that too. All right, brother. Here's going to be a series of rapid fire questions.
All right.
It's this or that. There's no wrong answer.
All right.
For
one.
And some of them are like the guitar related ones, like we're not offending. So they're just the disclaimer. I'm a PRS guy, but I would answer these questions the way they're questioned, even though I still PRS. You know what I'm saying? So, okay.
Okay.
Humbucker or single coil pickups?
Humbucker.
Les Paul style guitar or Strat style guitar?
Les Paul.
In the Fender world, Strat or Telly?
Oh, that's a hard one, man. Used to be Telly. I mean, it used to be Strat when I was a kid, but Telly now.
Cool.
Yeah.
I just got the Brent Mason signature.
Oh, you did? Is it awesome?
Oh my God. It weighs like a ton.
Yeah.
I've never had a guitar with a bender in it, and that's really cool. And just the pickup combinations, I'm in love.
Have you had him on yet?
Hmm.
Have you had him on your thing yet?
No.
I bet he'd do it. You should reach out to him, send him a message.
I definitely will.
Call you out, Brent.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. No,
he's a badass guy.
I watch his Instagram stuff, and I'm just like, duh. What? And chicken picking stuff. Like I'm a lefty, but I play righty. So my right hand is dumb. And just watching all that, I just can't wrap my hand around it. Yeah.
If I show up at a session and he's there too, I do not take my Telly out. And if it's already out, I put it away.
All right. Back to the question. Sorry. I got distracted myself.
Me too.
Okay. In a Gibson world, a Les Paul or an SG?
Oh, SG, and I don't really have a good one, but yeah, SG.
Cool. All right. I didn't expect that. Cool. Yeah. As for basses, if we're going just from a classic standpoint, P bass or jazz bass?
You know, I can't tell you the difference. Looks wise, I like jazz bass.
Cool. Yeah, I like the jazz looks too.
And some of my favorite rocker guys have used some jazz, but so maybe we lean jazz.
Cool. I dig it. For acoustics, Martin or Taylor?
Martin. No. Taylor Martin. Remember him? It's Taylor Martin. That's the answer. Can't get that one wrong. No, I don't want it, man. Boy. Old Martin.
Yeah. That's a tough one because
Old Martin.
With the newer stuff, it's how do you okay.
Yeah.
That's
a mean question, man.
It's going to get harder. I apologize. I'm horrible. My amplification, Marshall or Fender?
Fender.
Yeah, they're very different things. So that's not a question. Effects, delay or reverb?
Yes.
Okay. No wrong answers. Fuzz or overdrive?
Overdrive.
Phaser or chorus?
Phaser.
Okay, that's the one where there's a right answer. So cool.
Okay.
Beatles or Stones?
Beatles.
John or Paul?
Jaw.
Okay.
No, Paul. I say Paul.
Okay, I like Paul too. That's cool. Zeppelin or Floyd?
Zeppelin.
Okay, different animals. So that's a rough one.
Yeah, totally.
Dark Side or The Wall?
Ooh, The Wall.
Cool. I like The Wall too. I like this. Pearl Jam or Nirvana?
Pearl Jam.
Okay, we're best friends. Cool. Sammy Hagar or David Lee Roth? It's two different bands. So
yeah, it is. I mean, being a child of the 80s, I heard, being born in 74, I heard Hagar at an age where I was connecting with music more. But through the years, I'd say David Lee Roth.
I like the way you answered that. One of my thesis in college was like the experiential component within music. When we experience music, no matter what it is, in hindsight, quality wise, musicianship, it's irrelevant because it's where it hits us in our lives. So
yeah, it is. And I think the right answer for that question for anybody, for your next person, would be anyone who sings with Eddie Van Halen playing guitar.
Yeah. Dude, I'll tell you, I pissed my friends off. I liked the Gary Cherone record also because that my first time seeing Van Halen live was the tour for Van Halen 3. So
yeah, you know what? I never heard it. I never listened to it. I should.
You got to listen to it, not expecting either of the previous things. It's its own thing, but there's some cool stuff on there.
Cool.
Less cool than the other stuff, but still cool. Okay. And then my last question, which I can only ask today. So you're the only person who will ever get to ask this question to.
All right.
Tampa Bay or Kansas City?
Kansas City.
Okay. That's probably the right answer, despite my hat, but it's cool.
Yeah, I say Kansas City.
Cool. It's youth over age. I dig it. All right, brother. Well, thank you so incredibly much for your time. This was
thank you
so much. This will exist on YouTube. I send it out to all the students after we finish the live. It'll be the podcast tomorrow morning. I'll put all the links.
Awesome,
man. Friends thing too that you're mentioning. If you just text me what that is, I'll throw it in.
Yeah, I'll send you some links, man. I appreciate it, dude. Thanks for having me. It's been awesome to talk to you.
Likewise, man.
I hope your students get something from it.
I am positive they will. There's much to unpack.
All right, brother.
Thanks, my friend. Be safe.
You're welcome. You too. Peace.
Right. See you.
See you, man.